Have you ever found yourself exhausted after just a short conversation with someone? Even after returning home, the lingering effect weighs you down, leaving your mood heavy and stealing away your inner peace. After turning 60, the most precious thing we need to protect is not only our physical health, but also the peace of our mind. This is the stage of life when you deserve joy, lightness, and truly comfortable moments. But unfortunately, in life, there are certain types of people whose very presence can disrupt that peace. And sometimes they are not strangers at all, but rather familiar faces within your own family. The first type of person you need to be especially cautious of is the one who constantly complains, also known as the constant complainer. These are the people who, every time you meet them, the conversation always revolves around sadness, injustice, or the negative sides of life. They might complain about rising prices, declining health, or how their children and grandchildren are no longer the same. Listen to them long enough, and you'll feel your mind become heavy, with your optimism slowly fading away. I remember a neighbor lady, every time she stopped by, the atmosphere instantly turned gloomy. She would talk about her illnesses, lament about her children's indifference, and then criticize how society is no longer as good as it once was. At first, everyone tried to listen out of politeness, but after some time, people started finding excuses to avoid her. Just 15 minutes in her company was enough to make your spirits plummet. The dangerous thing is, if you interact with people like this too often, you can easily get dragged into the whirlpool of negativity they create. However, you absolutely can protect yourself by keeping a certain distance. There's no need to cut ties completely. Just skillfully steer the conversation towards something more positive, or gently end the discussion when you feel your energy being drained. Remember, after 60, you no longer have much time to waste on things that only tire your mind. Protecting your inner peace is far more important than trying to please someone who is constantly drowning in complaints. And if complainers can gradually strip away your optimism, the second type of person is even more dangerous. The one who always wants to control you, also known as the controller. Not only do they bring you feelings of suffocation, but they also try to impose their thoughts and decisions on your life, slowly taking away your freedom and your right to live in the way you truly desire. The controller often shows up under the disguise of care and concern. They might be your children, siblings, or close friends. But instead of respecting your choices, they impose their opinions on everything. From what you should eat, what you should wear, how you should spend your money, to how you should spend your daily time, nothing is left without their interference. At first, you may see it as a genuine concern, but over time, the loss of freedom in your own life will weigh heavily on you, even leaving you feeling helpless. I once met a retired man who had a simple routine. Each morning, he tended to a small vegetable garden in his backyard. It was both a hobby and a source of daily joy. However, his daughter believed that it only made him more tired. She constantly urged him to give it up and even outright forbade him from going outside on hot sunny days. To her, it was a way of protecting her father, but to him, it meant the loss of his greatest daily happiness. He began to feel as though he had no say, even in the smallest matters of his own life. Controllers often don't realize that their impositions can be deeply hurtful. After 60, the most important thing is not pleasing others, but living fully with what brings you joy and peace. That's why the best way to deal with the controller is to set clear boundaries. You can speak gently but firmly, saying, "Thank you for your concern, but I want to make this decision myself." When you do that, you'll feel liberated and much freer. And if the controller takes away your freedom, then the next type of person can drain you in another way. They don't just interfere with your decisions. They find ways to take advantage of your kindness and trust for their own benefit. This is the type of person you must be truly wary of, because if you don't recognize it in time, they can quietly strip away both your spirit and your resources. The third type of person you need to watch out for after 60 is the user, the exploiter. These are the people who don't come to you out of genuine affection. They only show up when they need something. They could be friends, relatives, or even close family members. Every time they appear, they always have a reasonable excuse to ask for favors, borrow money, or insist that only you can help them right now. At first, you may think helping them is your responsibility, a way to maintain the relationship. But soon you realize that after each time you give, you don't receive gratitude, only a new wave of endless requests. I recall the story of an elderly woman in a senior group. She was very generous, always willing to help whenever someone asked. A cousin of hers would frequently come to borrow money, sometimes claiming hardship, other times saying he urgently needed funds for work. She trusted him and kept giving, but the money never came back. Over time, the amount grew substantial, and she finally realized she had been taken advantage of. What made it even sadder was that deep down, she knew it all along. But because of family ties, she hesitated to say no. That silence turned her into an easy target for someone accustomed to exploiting others. The user doesn't just take your money or possessions. Sometimes they take your time, energy, and even your emotional strength. They come to you only to unload their problems, but never listen to yours. They ask you to help with this and that, yet are rarely there when you need a hand. After 60, you don't have the energy to waste on such one-sided relationships. The best way to deal with the user is to learn to say no firmly but politely. You can say, "I'm sorry, but I can't help right now." A short refusal is enough to remind them that you are no longer a resource they can endlessly exploit. And more importantly, you must remind yourself that your peace and safety are worth far more than any relationship that leaves you drained. And if the user can take away both your spirit and your resources, the next type of person brings a different kind of exhaustion. They may not always ask for favors or borrow money, but wherever they appear, trouble and conflict seem to follow. These are the people who create drama, those whose very presence can turn an ordinary gathering into an unpleasant battlefield. After 60, what you hope for most in family gatherings or reunions with friends is warmth and comfort. Yet there is one type of person whose mere presence can instantly turn the atmosphere tense. This is the drama maker, the conflict creator. They often carry with them harsh words, unnecessary arguments, or sensitive topics that easily spark disputes. Instead of allowing everyone to enjoy peaceful moments, they transform conversations into battlegrounds where every word must be measured with caution. I recall the story of a family at a birthday party. Everyone was happily gathered, but within minutes a cousin brought up the old issue of dividing family property. His tone was sharp, his gaze accusatory, and soon the celebration turned into a loud argument. The laughter vanished, replaced by a suffocating heaviness. The one stirring up conflict may have thought he was just speaking honestly, but in reality he was destroying the joy and unity of the family. What's even more concerning is that after 60, you become more vulnerable to stress and tension. Meaningless arguments don't just drain your mental energy, they directly affect your physical health, raising your blood pressure, disrupting your sleep, and even increasing feelings of loneliness when you begin avoiding gatherings where this person might be present. So what should you do when faced with the drama maker? The best response is to remain calm. You don't need to jump into arguments to prove yourself right. Instead, you can smile, stay silent, or gently redirect the conversation towards something lighter. If the situation becomes too overwhelming, allow yourself to walk away. Always put your peace first, because no argument is worth sacrificing your health and your joy in life. And once you've grown used to avoiding unnecessary conflicts, you may eventually realize there is yet another type of person who can be just as harmful. They don't bring loud trouble or constant arguments, but their presence can quietly pull you away from the good things in life. These are the people who slowly distance you from the world, rob you of joy, and allow isolation to silently creep into your soul. The final type is the isolator, the one who causes you to feel isolated or brings a negative influence. The danger of these people is that they are not loud, not argumentative, and they don't directly ask for favors or impose control. Yet their presence draws you away from healthy connections and gradually makes your life smaller and more suffocating. It could be an old friend whose lifestyle has become too different from yours. Instead of encouraging you to go out and join enjoyable activities, they only want to stay indoors, complain about life, or indulge in unhealthy habits such as drinking, gambling, or gossiping. Spending too much time with them, you may find yourself socializing less, being less active, and even giving up hobbies you once loved. From an energetic person, you slowly become withdrawn, and that isolation quietly erodes your joy in living. I once met an elderly lady who loved attending her local book club, but her close friend would constantly criticize the activities, saying they were useless, and would try to keep her at home instead. Little by little, she stopped going out. She stayed home more, and within just a few months, people noticed she had become quieter, her face often clouded with sadness. Isolation doesn't come from being physically alone. It comes from being with the wrong people, the ones who unintentionally make you give up healthier, more positive connections. To avoid falling into this situation, you need to clearly recognize who truly uplifts your spirit and who quietly pulls you down. Prioritize spending time with those who bring you positive energy, who encourage you to live healthily and stay connected. On the other hand, if a relationship makes you increasingly closed off, be brave enough to limit that person's presence in your life. After 60, every single day is a precious opportunity to enjoy and rediscover joy. Don't let anyone take that away from you. And when you look back, you'll see that these 5 types of people, from the constant complainer, the controller, the user, the drama maker, to the isolator, all share one thing in common. They weaken your inner peace. Keeping your distance from them is not selfish. It's a way of protecting your mental health, your joy, and the precious years you still have ahead. Because after 60, you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You only need to live for your own peace of mind. If someone came to mind while you were listening to these descriptions, I invite you to share it in the comments. Have you ever encountered any of these 5 types of people? And what have you done to preserve your peace? If this video brought you value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so we have more motivation to continue creating meaningful content that helps you live a lighter, more fulfilling life after 60. After 60, peace is your most precious treasure. Guard it by stepping away from those who make your soul heavy. And if you'd like to learn more about the small habits that can protect your longevity and happiness, make sure to watch the next video right here.